everybody and welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you are new. Today's video is going to be a little bit different for me. I'm going to be talking about being a freelancer, as that is what I do for my full-time job. And I've gotten a couple of questions about what it is I do, how I got into it, why I do it. So I thought I would just make a video on it. It is going to be quite a long video, I dare say, because I tend to ramble and I've got quite a few things to get through. So grab yourself something to eat and drink and we will get straight on into the video. So the first thing that I'm going to talk about is why I got into freelancing and why I would recommend a lot of other people to get into it if you have what it takes, and I will explain what I mean by that. So why I got into freelancing was because I am only 25, so that is quite young to be freelancing. I think it is quite young to be working for yourself and to be an independent trader. But I was working for a company where I felt like my opinions were going a little bit unheard. I was trying my best to better the company. I felt like when things weren't going through, it wasn't because of my fault. And I just felt like I wanted to make a better difference. I wanted to see projects being fulfilled. I wanted to also be able to see more aspects of a company. I wanted to be able to have my fingers in a lot of different pies. And normally when you work for a company and you fulfill your contract, you're only able to do one job. So you are either the social media person, or you are either the editor, or you are either the copywriter, or you are either the manager, or you only have sort of one role. And I'm quite a creative person, so I kind of like to be doing a lot of different things at one time. I like to be seeing a lot of different aspects and be kind of involved in a lot of different projects, and I just wasn't really afforded that opportunity. So I had the opportunity or the chance in mid 2016 where I had a partner who supported me at the time to take the risk. And it is a risk because you do not have a guaranteed income, so you aren't aware of where your next paycheck is going to come from. And it is a risk. It is a bit scary. It is actually very scary, and you're just not sure what's going to happen. So I was lucky at the time where my partner said he supported me, so I took the plunge and I started to freelance. So I did not start working straight away. I had to take some time to work on myself first and sort of rebuild my confidence, as I'd taken quite a hit in that time period. And I had to sort of work on at first what sort of skills I thought I was going to offer and what I was comfortable in offering and what I was passionate about and where I wanted to go. And so I took a couple of months to figure that out and kind of work on a business plan and build my business up and sort of figure out what it is I wanted to actually do. So I created the business Creatively Jane Freelance, and that is the business that I now run. And I built it from the ground up, and I don't know if you can tell, but I am fucking proud. And I'm not even going to bleep that. I am so proud of that business. I have managed to build it from the ground up, and it is now paying my bills. I have now got it to the point where it is now able to pay all of my bills, and it is even paying for a trip for me. So I am so super proud of myself that I have managed to keep this business going, and it is just, I'm just so proud of it. I'm so proud of where it is, and I'm so proud that it is continuing to grow. I'm so proud of what I get to do every day. And I'm just so happy that I can interact with my clients and that they're really happy with the work that I'm providing them, and that I get to do a job that I'm really happy in, and that I am doing work that I enjoy doing. I am not one of those people anymore who dreads waking up every day. I'm actually one of those people who can wake up whenever they want. I am very, very, very privileged. I can wake up whenever I want and start working whenever I want during the day and stop working whenever I want during the day. As long as the work is done, it doesn't matter. So that is why I started, and that is where I have ended up today. I have ended up with quite a successful little business, And yeah, so that's why I thought I would make this video. So the next thing that I'm going to quickly run you through is what it is that I actually do. So what it is that I offer my clients, what I do for them, and kind of the services that I sort of do, the jobs that I do, and yeah. So basically I offer copywriting skills. So I offer web copy. I have some clients where I write web listings for them. So I have one client where I write up some listings where they have a travel website for Australia. So I write up accommodation listings for their website. And I have also done some editing work. So I have edited some novels, I edit scripts, and I also edit proposals for some movies. I have also done quite a bit of social media management. So that is more than like that is mostly where the bulk of my work comes in. So that basically means, I'm looking down at notes, sorry. That basically means I do comment moderation. So I make sure there is no spam comments, no inappropriate comments. That doesn't mean negative comments. I don't actually believe in removing negative comments on a brand. I actually will respond on behalf of a brand. I don't remove negative comments, but I will remove any derogatory comments, any swearing, any like that sort of comments where they are, you know, like unnecessarily nasty comments. I will remove those. But I will do comment moderation, so like spamming and that kind of thing, I will get rid of those. I will also schedule any content, so schedule photos, articles, that sort of thing. And I will also source third-party content to share onto their platforms and to create a conversation with their customers and their audiences. I will also monitor reviews. So if they sell a product, or I also have some restaurants, so I will monitor reviews of their restaurants through other platforms, including like TripAdvisor and Dimmy. So I will respond on behalf of the restaurant to the reviews and sort of get a dialogue and make sure the customer is happy. And I also do some marketing. So I will come up with marketing ideas on behalf of the restaurant, talk to the owners, get a bit of an idea happening, and I will also reach out to bloggers to try and organize if they would like to come along and review the restaurant and sort of get that kind of thing going and read the reviews and pass it along to the restaurant, any feedback and all that sort of thing. And I also work with a company, I also work with a company who where I source third-party content for their clients for LinkedIn profiles. So that work is actually super, super interesting because it covers a variety of industries, and their clients cover anything from cybersecurity to big data to data hosting to Wi-Fi networks, through to HR departments, through to accounting. Like, it is just amazing. And so I get to read about all different industries that I never normally wouldn't read about, and I just again write a little bit of editorial to go along with it. So I do a lot of creatively mixed media work, and a lot of it is writing and social media based. So that is essentially the skills that I bring to my clients, and that is what I offer them. The next thing I'm going to talk about is how I do it in terms of the equipment that I have at my disposal, and then how people find me and how I sort of get jobs. So in terms of equipment, I have Apple things. I am an Apple girl. I love Apple. I have never really dabbled in Android. I have been Apple ever since I got Apple or Apple equipment. So I have an iMac. So that is my desktop computer. I also have a MacBook laptop and an iPad. So I mix all three. It depends on where I am and how I want to work. So sometimes I prefer to work on a desk. Sometimes I prefer to work on my soft office, which is my bed. Sometimes I prefer to work outside. Sometimes I prefer to work in a cafe. Sometimes I prefer to take Pascal to the dog park, and so he can run wild, and I just hotspot my phone and I set up either my iPad or my laptop. Sometimes I'm at a friend's house. Sometimes I'm at my sister's house. Sometimes I am in my car. Like, I can be anywhere. So it really is depending on where I am at the time, depending on what's going on, and I'm completely mobile. That is one of the beauties of being freelancer. So all of my technology pieces talk to each other. So all of my software is in the cloud. And part of my equipment is that I work in Google Docs. So if you don't know what that is basically Google's answer to Microsoft Office. And what that means is that I can work on a document on any of my devices and it syncs and it doesn't crash. It will sync itself up everywhere and it won't crash. So I can work on it all. I have all of my login information syncs over everything. So I can be working on any of my devices from anywhere and I won't have any problems. So those are the physical equipment that I use. Now, it also depends on what services that you offer as a freelancer. So because my skills are what I said a minute ago, those are the equipment that I need. If you were a graphic designer, you would probably use more tablet-based things because you're drawing. I don't really need to use anything more sophisticated than that. And if you were offering other services like accounting or something like that, you would probably have more complicated software in order to do what you offer. So that is something to keep in mind. Depending on the services that you're offering will depend on the equipment that you need. So because my services are like not easy, but because the equipment that I need doesn't need to be complicated, I can be extremely mobile. So it really doesn't tie me to a particular place to do my work, which makes what I do very, very convenient. And then the next thing in terms of equipment is I use Buffer as my thing to schedule all of my social media updates for even my blog and for my personal social media. I use Buffer, but I also use it for all of my clients. I have dabbled into Hootsuite and CoSchedule before, but I just found that Buffer was a little bit more easier to use. CoSchedule is a little bit more formal, if that makes sense. It's a little bit more technical. So if I got more clients, I probably would jump back into CoSchedule, but for now, Buffer is absolutely all that I need. It's very easy to use. I can get all access to any analytical reports that I need to draw down for my clients. Not a problem at all. So I use Buffer for that. I can access it on all of my devices without any issues. And as I said before, I use Google Docs because I can send the links to my clients as well. So if I'm using a document for a marketing proposal or I'm using a spreadsheet for something, I can send them a link and they can open it up to look at the document as well at the same time without there being a syncing issue and the document doesn't crash and have an issue, and it's just much cleaner and easier. I also use a program called Grammarly to check my work. So even though, like, not to toot my own horn, but even though I am normally quite I'm normally quite good with grammar and punctuation anyway, when you are working with people who are paying you for your work, you don't always want to necessarily rely on just your own personal instinct or built-in grammar software from Microsoft Office or Pages or anything like that. So software like Grammarly is a much more in-depth program that will check your work and make sure it is the best it possibly can be before you send it off to somebody, because again, they are paying you for that work. So you do want to make sure that it is the best that it can be and that it is top-notch. So I tend to run all of my work through that just to make sure that there is no silly mistakes that shouldn't be there, and so I can catch them quickly. And I also have the program Wix, which I use to build my website. So I will walk you through my website in a second because that's part of how I get my jobs. But I use Wix as part of my equipment because it's how I build my website. But finally, I also do have printed things. So I am a little bit of a dinosaur because I print out my contracts. So when you're a freelancer, well, you should. If you don't have contracts, you are very, very silly and risky. I make all of my clients sign contracts. I don't care whether they are ongoing or whether they are one-off. I make them sign a contract. Otherwise, I will not work with them. And the contract is to protect me as much as it is to protect them, because they are asking me to perform a service for them. And again, it is just to protect both parties. So I have a folder, and this is my folder. So as you can see, it is lovely, and it's my freelancing folder. And I keep it right by my desk so I can access it nice and quickly. And all it has inside it is signed contracts by all of my clients. I have printed off invoices, which I obviously will not show you, but I do have my invoices, which I can show you there, like that. So that's an invoice for me there. Part of my other equipment too, I use the invoicing system called Wave Apps. So that's an online system that you can use to generate your invoices. And basically it lets you put in your logo, all of your information, and then you put in your customer information, and then the service, the amount, the hours, the whatever. And then it can email it off, send you a copy, and it will let you know when the invoice is overdue, when it has been paid, all of that sort of stuff. So I find that one is just very easy to keep track of. It has a mobile app, so I just find that one is way easier to use. It's free, you don't have to pay for it. And yeah, so that is another one of my equipment that I use. So if you are thinking about it, there you go. But also in here, I have folders that have my information for my clients in it. So as an empty one, I basically have a piece of paper that looks like this, and it has the client name, the business, date of contact, how they contacted me, the date that the contract was signed, the services that I'm providing that particular client, and then what is actually inside the folder, just so I can keep a little bit more, organized, or at least pretend that I'm organized. And then, so I have all of my contracts in here, so I know. And essentially my contract is a very standard freelancing contract. So you can look up a template of it if you have no idea what they look like. So you can look up what a standard freelancing contract is if you don't know what they are, or if you do have any questions, leave a comment down below and I'm more than happy to email you what my standard contract looks like. But it essentially just covers you. So it outlines the services that you are providing to the client. It outlines your payment terms and how long you are willing to wait for payment. So for example, mine is an initial 7 days from the date of invoice. And then after that point, all services will stop if you don't receive payment. It also outlines anything, like it's just really standard. So if you at any point feel unsafe, if you feel threatened, like really, really standard things like that, you're able to stop the contract. There is a period of, if you need to, for any reason, cease the contract, to provide 2 weeks notice. The client understands that they are not to pay tax or annual leave loading or holiday or, that sort of thing on your behalf. They understand the amount to be paid. Always put the amount to be paid in the contract. So they cannot, renege on the amount to be paid. Always have the amount to be paid in the contract. I cannot stress that enough. Always have the amount in writing. Do not ever have that over the phone. Always have that in writing, in emails, in writing all the time. So you're never stuck with them saying that, I never agreed to pay that amount. Always have it in writing and have it signed and dated in your contracts. I think that's really it. Like, it's just really standard to protect yourself and the client. If there is anything about paying for other additional services and fees, so for example, if there is any additional fees to be paid, that is to be paid by the client on my behalf. So any additional fees for marketing is to be paid by the client. That's not a fee to be covered by me. All those sort of things. So if you are curious and you would like to see what is in my contract, I'm happy to show you a copy of it. Just let me know. But yeah, so that's what's in a contract. If you are a freelancer, please, for the love of God, use a contract to protect yourself. But that's sort of like covering what my equipment is. Then the next thing is how I get jobs. So as I said before, I use Wix to create my website. So I've used it to create my blog, and I've also used it to create my business website. So This is my business website. It is Creatively Jane Freelance. So you can see there in the top corner, I have my logo and it's very cute. And you can also see I have a banner there that says currently available for work. So the reason I have that is that not all the time are freelancers able to take on new contracts. Sometimes they get full up because they have too many clients. So I have that there when I'm able to take on new work, just so when people stumble across your website, they're aware that you're able to take on new work. Otherwise, they could waste their time reaching out to you and then you're just going to tell them that you can't take them on anyway. So it's just a courtesy, really. And then I have a little bit of an about me section, just so they can get like an idea of my personality, get to know me a little bit better, get to know a bit about my background, a little bit of the services that I offer in more detail, because as you can see down below here, I have more detail about the services that I actually offer in bullet point, so they can have a bit more of an idea of what I can do for them. And then down the bottom there, they have a contact box. I used to have a resume PDF that they could download, but I actually took that off the website, not for any particular reason, but more just because I figured that if they really wanted to work with me, they had enough information on the website there as it was, that they could contact me anyway. And if they wanted to see the resume, they could ask for it in an email. So I wanted to keep the website super simple, super clean. And if they wanted more information, they could ask for it in an email. So that's my website. So I get probably about 30 to 40% of my work coming through there. Then the second, the most important way that I get my clients is actually through a Gumtree ad. So it sounds a bit weird, but you can actually post a servicing ad on Gumtree. So you're not posting that you want to hire somebody, you're actually posting an ad to say you have services to offer. And I get a lot of work. Actually, most of my clients have found me through my Gumtree ad. And basically, it is a summary of exactly what I have on my website. It's just on Gumtree. And people contact me through the Gumtree messaging app. I give them my email and then we just start emailing back and forward. And sometimes it has worked where we have continued a relationship, and other times it has not, where for whatever reason it has fallen through, and that's okay. So if you are thinking about freelancing, I would strongly recommend looking at posting a Gumtree ad for your services. I have never paid to boost my Gumtree ad. Gumtree really tries to get you to boost your ad, like they push it and say, oh, you'll get in front of so many more people. I've never paid for it and I've gotten quite a bit of work out of it. So I'm sure if I boosted it, I'd get even more. Maybe I will consider doing that at some point this year, but at the moment I've never boosted it and I've gotten plenty of work out of it. So, to each your own. Other places where I have gotten work from is Pedestrian TV. That one I have actually gotten one of my major clients out of, which is ongoing work for me. So that one posts more full-time work, but there is also occasionally freelance work from there as well. So that one is a very good creative job board. So I would recommend going there to have a look. But other places you can look for is also seek.com.au, indeed.com.au, or Indeed. And also you can just contact your local businesses depending on the work that you're offering. So you could just look around at your local restaurants, hotels, again, depending on your services, and just sort of cold call, cold email, or just walk in and ask them and see if they have social media pages, see if they need any work done on their website, if you're offering graphic design work, if you're offering accounting work, if you're offering social media work, and just sort of practice your approach, because they call it the elevator approach, where you need to have a 30-second, hi, my name is Elsa and I do social media and copywriting work and my business is called Creatively Jane Freelance and look, here's my business card. It's a really quick approach. I've never really done it before because I've never really needed to, but it might be something worth practicing if it's something that you're willing to get into, and especially if you're wanting to work with local businesses. But that's something to think about, to go into your local businesses, to actually contact them, to work with them. And I'm sure there would be some of them who would be more than willing to work with a local designer, social media person, whatever it is, services that you're wanting to offer. So that's something to keep in mind. But those are the main places where I find jobs / where people find me. And then the next thing I want to talk about is basically, what does my week look like? So as I mentioned, I am extremely lucky in what I do. I absolutely love the fact that I do not work 9 to 5. I can wake up when I want. I can go to bed when I want. So some days I will wake up at 6 a.m. and start working straight away. Other days I will wake up at 9 and not start working until 12. So my days are very flexible. Some days they have to be more rigid because I have meetings or I have things that need to be done by a certain time. But most of the time I am really quite flexible. It doesn't really matter when I start working. But on a general weekly basis, my week sort of starts out on a Monday. And what I tend to do is I sit down on a Monday and I will figure out what needs to be done for that week. So but week by week, it tends to change because what my clients need for that week tends to change. So the amount of work that needs to be done will change simply because I've either worked a lot the week before, or I didn't need to work so much the week before, or more clients have come on, or less have come on, or whatever. So it sort of changes week by week, which means my Monday is either very busy or not so busy at all. So I will sit down on the Monday, and the Monday is my organizational day. And that usually means sitting down and looking at my calendar. So I will sit down and I will usually sit down with my buffer, and I will figure out what social media needs to be scheduled up for the week for my clients. So that's when I will sit down and source all of the images, plan out the editorial, plan out the text, the hashtags, the whatever. And I will sit down and schedule all of that out for the week, maybe even 2 weeks or whatever, depending on the mood that I'm in or how much actual content I have to plan. So I will sit down and schedule all of that out. Then I will figure out my meetings and I will figure out my emails. So by that I mean, I already know I have reoccurring emails with some clients every week, and I also have emails that I know need to be responded to, but then I will go through and figure out what emails I need to follow up on, because that obviously changes, and I'll figure out when I need to follow them up on during the week. So if I know that, by Friday, if so-and-so hasn't responded, then I need to chase them up. I'll put a little reminder in my calendar so I know to chase them up by Friday. So all of that tends to happen on the Monday, and then basically my whole week is planned out for me. So I sort of know what needs to be done every day, and that plan doesn't always work out. It doesn't always happen. Mainly because some days I will not feel very well. I will not feel like working to my schedule. So I won't do it. As long as the work is done, it doesn't matter. So if the work doesn't get done on Tuesday, but it gets done on Wednesday, it's really not life-threatening or critical. So I can work until midnight one night, and then I won't work at all the next day. Or I will get all of the work done and it doesn't really matter. And then I might get really inspired one day and I'll actually do the whole week's worth in one day. And so, I don't actually need to work for the rest of the week. So my week, even though I plan it out to a bit of a schedule, it doesn't always follow that schedule. So even though I am quite organized, it really depends on what kind of mood I'm in. But at the end of the day, as long as the work is done and the work is delivered to my contracted obligation, my clients don't care. As long as I am doing what I have promised to do, and as long as I am checking the social profiles to make sure the comments are being moderated, for example, and I am responding to emails promptly and all of that sort of thing, it really doesn't matter whether I'm doing it at 9 o'clock in the morning or 1 o'clock in the morning. It really doesn't matter to them. So that is honestly one of the beauties of what I do, and it allows me to be really flexible. So for example, like this week, my sister had her baby, so I was able to spend a couple of days with her, and I was able to keep on top of my work, and I knew what was going on, and it just meant that my work was being done, but I could sit with her in the hospital and just sort of kept an eye on my phone, but my work was being done, my clients were happy, and at night time I would just make sure nothing critical had gone wrong, and now that I'm back at home, I'm just back on top of everything. So it allows you to be so much more flexible. You can go to lunch with your friends, you can go away on the weekend, you can take a Friday off, have a long weekend, and it doesn't matter. As long as the work's done, it doesn't matter. And I really love it. I love the lifestyle I have. I really quite like it. So that's kind of an idea of what I do in a week. And I also put aside time for my things, so I'm not only stuck on the computer doing work. I obviously put aside a little bit of time as well to do a little bit of sourcing of clients, but I have set it up in a way that mostly clients find me. So I really don't have to beg for work. If people find me, then that means I've done my SEO job really well. People tend to find me. So I don't actually have to source a lot of work, but I do make sure that I put time aside so I can do my own writing and my own blogging. So I make sure I do actually schedule that into my calendar for the week, just so I'm not only on my computer for work. And that works in really well for me because those are hobbies that I enjoy. So that makes it, that balances everything out and makes sure I still have that balance and make sure I still enjoy it. And I really do enjoy it. I enjoy everything that I do. I really enjoy what I do at the moment. I enjoy where I am in my career at the moment, I suppose. Yeah. And then the last thing I want to talk about is I just want to give over a couple of tips. So the first thing that I want to tell you is, for the love of God, get yourself a good accountant. So I have an amazing accountant who, she helps me to make sure I am claiming the right things. So when you're an independent trader, there are certain things you can claim that really help make things a lot easier. And then there are obviously things that you can't claim. So I, for example, can claim, because I work from home, I can claim some of my internet bill. Actually, I can claim a good portion of my internet bill. I can claim wear and tear on my electronics because I have to use like my computers and things like that. I can claim part of my electricity bill, like things like that, that you wouldn't necessarily think you can claim, but because you need those things to actually do your job, you can claim some of it back. So get yourself a really good accountant who can help you do those things. And you also need to make sure you are following the law. And by that I mean get yourself an ABN or whatever the equivalent is in your country to be an independent trader, to make sure you're doing the right thing in terms of tax, because the last thing you want is to not be doing the right thing in terms of tax and getting hit with some sort of fine or, you know, getting into trouble with that, because that can be really expensive and just not a lot of fun later on. The next tip I have for you is to connect with other freelancers. And the reason I say this is because when you are an independent trader and you're working from home, the chances are a lot of your friends are not. So most of my friends are not independent traders, they work for companies. And the reason I say that is because it can get very lonely. You do not work 9 to 5, or you probably will not work 9 to 5 Monday to Friday. So when you feel like going out for lunch on Wednesday, your friends cannot. They are in the office or whatever it is that they do. And so you can feel really lonely and you can feel isolated and boxed in and just really antisocial. Or if something goes wrong and you are out on a Wednesday and you have to work a Saturday when your friends are off and are free, you can't go and see them. So you do miss out on some social occasions. So I would recommend trying to connect with some other freelancers who do have that flexibility that you have, just so you can also ask them questions and bounce off that similar lifestyle. So if you do have questions about tax or like legal questions, or if you just have questions about how to find clients or how to deal with clients or how to market yourself to clients, or you have a client who didn't want to pay you that kind of money, what do you do? Are you marketing yourself too much? Are you asking for too much? You know, you can ask them and get their feedback. So I really do recommend trying to connect with other freelancers just to get that idea and connect yourself with that community. It can really help. My next tip is to not undersell your skills. Be realistic about your skills. If you have no experience in what you're trying to do, obviously you cannot charge $3,000 a month. It's just like very rarely will someone pay you that if you have no experience. But At the same time, if you do have experience in those skills, don't undersell yourself, because you are providing that company a service that they don't have to pay for otherwise. So what I mean by that is, for example, in social media, if they weren't paying you that, they would be having to pay somebody else that in a full-time position. But not only that, they have to then pay that person holiday leave, sick leave, annual leave. They also then have to pay them superannuation. But beyond that, they have to pay for their computer, the electricity for that computer and the lights above that computer, the phone line, the internet, and all of those sort of things around that. But then they have to pay the wage of that person. They also then have to pay the marketing around that role. So they're paying the full-time wage of this person, but then they're also paying the $500 a month that that person's asking for to run the campaign of the social media. So they're paying a lot more to have a full-time position, and you're asking for just a couple of hundred or whatever it is that you're asking for a month, which most likely is going to be less than that bill. So just be aware of the value that you're contributing to that company. So don't oversell yourself and be greedy, but at the same time, be aware of what you're contributing, and just don't undersell the skills that you do have. Don't be silly. Don't be naive. You are giving that company a break. They're not having to pay as much as they otherwise would have to pay. So don't undersell yourself. The next thing would be to learn from your mistakes. So if you do happen to overcharge a customer, or you do happen to overquote somebody who they do turn around and say to you, that is absolutely outrageous, I'm never paying for that, learn from it. Maybe do a Google search and see what other freelancers are charging or other companies would be charging for similar services. And if you are overcharging, learn from that. And next time, don't quote so much. Learn from those mistakes. If you make a mistake in a campaign, own up to it. Don't hide behind your mistakes. Own up to it and step forward and actually contact your client and say, look, I'm sorry, I've made a mistake and this is the mistake. I've caught it, but that's the mistake and I'm sorry. And if they choose to end the contract, they choose to end the contract, but you're a human being and you will make mistakes. You're not going to be perfect. But at the end of the day, you have to learn from them. And if you don't learn from them, you will continue to make them. So the only piece of advice I can give you is to just learn from them and try not to make them again. The other thing I can tell you is to try and learn from LinkedIn profiles and to set up your own one. So I am actually really bad at this. I have a LinkedIn profile, but I don't use it to its strength. And it's something that I do want to try and do in 2018 is actually update it and try and use it, because LinkedIn is a professional networking, social networking place. So I really want to use it for what it actually is and to try and connect with other freelancers and to try and use it for the benefit that it actually could provide. So I would highly recommend that when you're starting off, use it for its strengths and try and maximize its capacity for yourself and try and connect to people who are in your industry as early as you can, and try and use it while you can, because I do believe that LinkedIn actually has a lot of potential for you, and it could connect you with a lot of different people who could actually really help and could potentially even become clients for you. So 100% get yourself a LinkedIn profile and put in some effort in learning it and connecting with people and just starting conversations with them, because I think it does actually pull off and come off for a lot of people. Okay, so I'm sorry, my other phone cut out, so this last bit of the video is being filmed on my other phone. But basically, my last bit of advice is, if you are in the UK, to follow more about Kat. She does weekly vlogs about being a freelancer, and because she's in the UK, she can give you a UK advice on being a freelancer in that area of the world, because obviously I'm in Australia, so I can't really give you advice about being in the UK. I can only speak about being an Australian freelancer, sort of, and I'm kind of doing a really terrible job of doing that. So if you're in the UK, I strongly recommend that you go and follow her vlogs. She is really real about being a freelancer. She's really open about like the struggles that you can have being a freelancer, and like the self-doubt and like the questions that you can have. And you know, she answers some really great questions in there, so I strongly recommend that you go Google her and follow her on YouTube. As I said, it is more about Cat, C-A-T. So I will leave a link to her channel down below. Please go and subscribe to it. And just if you are a freelancer, even if you're not, just go and follow her vlogs. They're just really interesting to go along and follow. And if you are a freelancer, it just gives you another great perspective, and especially if you're in the UK, because she'll give you some answers to questions that I just can't. But that is it for this video. I know it was really long and very quick and chatty, and you probably didn't answer anything, but if you do have any questions, please leave them in the comments down below and I will do my best to answer them for you. And I'm sorry about the dramatic angle change at the end here, but as I said, my other phone was sort of burning up, so I had to swap it over. But yeah, I do hope you did enjoy this. I hope you got something useful out of it. I know it's very different to my usual content on here, but I have had a couple of questions about it lately, so I thought I would just make a video about it anyway. And if you are interested in becoming a freelancer, do make the plunge. It is different. It is a little bit difficult at first, and you do have to be committed. It does take on average about 12 months before you can get sort of a steady income for it, really. But if you are committed, and if you really want to change your sort of income, I guess, if you really want to change your lifestyle, it is such a great thing to do. I really do advise it for most people. If you are organized and you're committed and you just really want to change your life and you are determined enough to do that for yourself, then you absolutely can do it. There is no reason why you can't. Even if you just sort of do it part-time and you work somewhere else sort of to supplement the income, because it can be a real challenge. But if you have the determination and the drive to do it, you absolutely can do it. There's no reason why you can't. If I can do it, anybody can, really. Like, that is the lesson to take away from this video. So I hope you did enjoy today's video, and like I said, I know it was long, so if you managed to get to the end of this, then good on you. Thank you so much for listening to me ramble. But that is it for this video. I think next week's video I'm going to do a sort of another chatty video, but I think it will be a bit more on plus size confidence or just body confidence in general. So yeah, anyway, but that's it for this video. Thank you so much. Give it a thumbs up if you did enjoy it, and I will see you next week. Thank you. Bye.